I used to work in the prison system. And when I went there, when I was in my 20s, I made the choice to go into education to try to change the future generations that was coming, because it was even a frightening place for me as a 20-year-old, and they were just constantly putting black men into prison for whatever reason. But I saw prison as slavery all over again. So I did what I thought I could do to make a difference, and that was to go back and try to mentor our young people, especially young black men, because I saw what was happening, and I didn't really wake up until I walked, when I got this job, and I walked into on my first day, and I saw all these black men incarcerated. And it wasn't my reason as to why they was there. It was just the fact that these are black men. These are people being put in cages. And when you cage people, you act like animals. And so, what else could you expect?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hello again, family. This is Victor E, and I'm here at this historic site here in Montgomery, sharing with you. We have the hotel over here, and then we have all of these replicas or statues here that represent the plight of the blacks here in the South as we dealt with racism in the South. And here are just some of the artifacts and some of the things that have been put here for education and for commemoration of the black struggle. And we continue to struggle. Okay, but what we have here is a wall that has been, feels like marble or something. Okay, the decade that changed the world, especially for us as black people down south, but it affected the whole world because the world was watching what was going on with us here in the South. Scores of people lost their lives in the struggle against racial injustice. Here are the portraits of 32 people whose death profoundly impacted those who organized, boycotted, and marched in the Montgomery
in Montgomery, Alabama. Do you see any significant? Well, all of them significant.
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till, that's okay.
Martin Luther King. Hey, Samuel Young
There
from
he
Tuskegee.
is.
There he is. I was in his mother's class in the second grade when he died, and she was so sad. And I asked her, why are you so sad? She said, my son was killed. And I never knew until maybe 10 years ago. That's what she was talking, the picture of him. But I knew she lost her son.
And that was in 1966.
1966. It might have been longer too, but I remember seeing it. I took some kids and I saw his name. I said, that's her son. I was in the second grade. There he is.
So we have here, it says, white officials made fatal mistake because the indictment made martyrs out of the leaders of the movement and completely fused the Negro citizens in the jubilant, hymn singing, firmly determined group. And this is the Newsweek in 1956. And here we have, starting here, these are people who were actually taken to jail, and they took their pictures proudly to go to jail and to pay the price for us to be able to have the freedoms that we have in this culture now. So we have right here, I thought that was Rosa Parks, but that's not Rosa Parks. This is Loretta Adar. I think I pronounced that right. Maybe I did. But Ralph Abernathy here. Just some of the names. Reverend Huffman, Jamie Lowe, Layden Robinson. Just numbers. How they was willing to stand up and do what was necessary to do in order for us to have these freedoms today. A lot of times, we sit back and we don't step up to face, the evil works and the things that go on in this culture. But if we don't have people who are brave enough to stand up, then to change our situations, then things just get worse. It just gets worse. So we have to be able to become willing to even die for these things, because the things that we're living now is for our children. So we must stand today so that we can create a better tomorrow, just as they gave their lives to have a better tomorrow for our generations to come. So here,
14-year-old George Stinney remains the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century.
How could you be so?
On October 28, 1958, police arrested 2 black children and jailed them for months for playing a game with a white girl in Monroe, North Carolina. That morning on the playground, a white girl kissed on the cheek 2 black boys who were 8 and 9 years old. Their names were David Simpson and James Hanover Thompson. When the girl later mentioned the game to her father, he grabbed his shotgun and gathered a mob of white men to go to James's home, intent on lynching the 2 children and their mothers. The boys weren't home when the mob arrived, but police quickly found them, confronted them with weapons drawn, took them into custody, and severely beat them. Local officials held the children in jail for 6 days and prevented them from speaking with their parents or attorneys. The boys did not know why they were being arrested, and when they were taken to the police station, they were told that they were being accused of rape. While the boys were detained, a group of police officers broke into their cell wearing white sheets to intimidate them. Local white residents burned a cross on the Thompsons' lawn, fired shots into their home, and even killed James's dog. Evelyn Thompson and Jenny Simpson, the two boys' mothers, were fired from their jobs. Denied attorneys, James and David were both charged with assault and molestation and sentenced to indefinite terms at the state reformatory. More than 3 months later, and only after the case drew widespread attention, North Carolina's governor pardoned the boys and released them. Neither the governor nor the court admitted to any wrongdoing, and no officials ever apologized for arresting, beating, and jailing the boys, or for traumatizing the entire Black community.
In the 1800s, Montgomery was a leading center of the domestic trade of enslaved people. The city and surrounding counties held in bondage one of the largest populations of enslaved people in America. After the Civil War, Black people embraced freedom with enthusiasm, building thriving communities. But the federal government soon abandoned the formerly enslaved. Reconstruction collapsed, and for the next century, Black people were disenfranchised, exploited, and frequently lynched for trying to assert their rights. Across the South, white supremacy was asserted, and a racial caste system was codified into law. Legal segregation was used as a means to humiliate and control Black people. No area of daily life was too trivial to regulate. The law even barred Black and white people from playing checkers together.
His mom
On
told
city
me
buses in Montgomery,
grade.
Black riders were forced to pay their fare at the front, disembark, and reboard through the rear door. Buses would sometimes pull away, leaving Black riders on the roadside. The first rows of city buses were reserved exclusively for white riders. Black people were forced to stand next to empty seats. When white people filled the front rows, Black people were required to give up their seats for white passengers. The majority of bus riders in Montgomery were Black women, most of whom were employed as domestic workers in white homes. After decades of humiliation, some Black women began protesting. In 1942, Ella Reed Jones, a college student, refused to give up her seat to a white person because she was feeling ill. Ms. Jones was arrested, beaten by police officers, and fined. 2 years later, Viola White refused to vacate her seat. She was arrested and convicted of disobeying a bus driver. In 1950, Hilliard Brooks, a 22-year-old World War II veteran, boarded a city bus, paid his fare, and then was told the bus was too crowded and he had to get off. When he asked for his fare back, the driver refused and then called the police. Though unarmed, Mr. Brooks was shot to death by a police officer who never faced charges. 2 more Black men were killed by police on Montgomery City buses between 1950 and 1953. Joanne Robinson and the Black Women's Political Council began filing complaints demanding reforms on city buses, but had limited success. In 1955, at least 5 Black women were arrested for refusing to vacate their seats for white people. Claudette Colvin was only 15 when she refused to move from her seat. Over the next 6 months, Janetta Reeves, Aurelia Browder, Mary Louise Smith, and Susie McDonald refused to cooperate with segregation and were arrested. Finally, on December 1, 1955, after her shift as a seamstress, Rosa Parks boarded a Montgomery bus home. During the ride, the bus driver ordered Mrs. Parks and the 3 other Black people to give up their seats for a white passenger. While other Black passengers complied, Mrs. Parks refused. She was arrested and jailed for violating segregation law. News of Mrs. Parks' arrest spread quickly because she had been a fierce advocate for Black people.
We see a family over there, looks like a family that was in the march over there. We have the woman out front leading hard-working men who were working. That's what I see in that replica over here. And here we see women out. You know, they're dressed and they are ready for business. And she's carrying some books over here. So we know that this is what we have to do today in order to change what is going on in this world right now. So until we can come here and experience this and actually don't just look at what we have to see here. You have to be able to become connected in your spirit to become actual, to really make a difference in what's going to happen for the people to come, the people who come behind us. If you don't feel this, you really probably not going to be a part of the answer. You have to come and experience the spirit of what is going on here, because we are right here again facing what is going on in our country today, even with our president and the things that we're going to have to face. And so we need to come here. I used to work in the prison system. And when I went there, when I was in my 20s, I made the choice to go into education to try to change the future generations that was coming, because it was even a frightening place for me as a 20-year-old. And they were just constantly putting black men in the prison for whatever reason. But I saw prison as slavery all over again. So I did what I thought I could do to make a difference. And that was to go back and try to mentor our young people, especially young black men, because I saw what was happening, and I didn't really wake up until I walked, when I got this job, and I walked into on my first day, and I saw all these black men incarcerated. And it wasn't my reason as to why they was there. It was just the fact that these are black men. These are people being put in cages. And when you cage people, you act like animals. And so what else could you expect when you are treated like animals? And people wonder, and they say, why is there black on black crime? Because you put them in a situation that is not a situation that God has designed us for. We cannot live in such oppression and be expected to act normal when you come out of this. So you need to come here. You need to come and feel this place and see what is going on and see how it has affected us as a people. And if we don't learn to love one another and to look past one another, we cannot be a part of their answer. We cannot. So you have to come to this place to reconnect with what has happened to us as a people. So I plead with you, please come here and get connected, because we have to learn how to love one another again. Peace.